In 2014, a Georgia veteran, a young father, goes missing.
Call me right now, please.
The local community rallies around a devastated family to find answers, including me. Over the years, I've seen police track down one lead after the next. All the while, rumors spread on social media pointing towards someone close to home. I had to find the truth. What happened the day Chase goes missing?
He was there that night and then basically left.
By the time the victim's loved ones stand in the courtroom, a legal injustice is revealed and they suffer utter disappointment when a decision is finally reached by the judge. A conviction means punishment, but in this case, does it mean justice is served? When you become a victim of violent crime, justice is not an idea or a concept. Justice gets personal.
Becoming a mother was by far the best day of my life. Chase was born in Lakeland, Florida on September 4th, 1987. And shortly after his birth, we moved to Georgia, and that's where we raised Chase. Even as a young child, Chase was funny, spontaneous, the life of the party, very witty, a lot of fun to be around. And we did have a very close relationship. I think we both would say that Chase was a mama's boy. When he decided to join the Army, there was a lot of different emotions. Very proud of him, that he would want to serve his country. At the same time, I had to adjust to him not being in my world every day. But we kept that communication going through letters. Chase and Amanda met when they were teenagers in high school. Chase was deployed to Bakuba, Iraq. And while he was deployed, Chase and Amanda started communicating via social media.
Not only did Chase agree to lay his life on the line for the U.S., he chose a partner that agreed to stand by him while he served his country. Not many relationships came home for a brief leave from Iraq. He proposed to his dream girl, Amanda.
Attending Chase's and Amanda's wedding was another very proud moment as a mom, and awaiting the arrival of their first baby. It was so exciting to watch Chase and Amanda become parents.
After a few months of married life, Chase is struggling with depression and bipolar disorder. With a doctor's help, he maintains stability. But when he gets the military's honorable discharge, he and Amanda head home to Georgia to raise their family.
In the Army, Chase's position was a diesel mechanic in the military police unit. Transitioning into civilian life, I think, was difficult for him to find that type of position. So he was forced to take other types of jobs that he wasn't passionate about. He went from job to job, not having the stability where he was very grounded. So Chase took a job with Quick Trip as a nighttime manager, and he made the best of it.
Chase had problems settling into married life. He struggled with his mental health over time, and he ultimately sought help at the VA for his bipolar disorder. On Sunday, March 22nd, Chase was having an episode, and that led to an argument between him and his wife. Chase and Amanda at that point just agreed that they needed a timeout.
Amanda dropped Chase off at my house. He was just going to stay with us just for a few days, just to give them a little space.
After 4 days, Chase really got restless. Of course, he had his family back home, and he started to miss them. Amanda Amanda arrives, she notices that Chase is agitated as he packs his belongings. Chase is stressed over some missed messages from work. He mistakenly took a pager home that the next shift needed. The more Chase focused on those messages, he just started to emotionally spiral.
Watching Chase leave, I felt a little helpless because Amanda and Chase were obviously struggling and there was turmoil.
So they were in the car, they were on the way to drop off that pager to his job when Chase threatens to jump out of the car and run into the woods. When they get to his job, Chase grabs his things out of his back seat. He slams the door and Chase.
The next morning, Amanda gets a text. But instead of her husband, Chase, finally reaching out, it turns out to be his buddy, Brad Clement.
Brad texts Amanda from Chase's phone, telling her that Chase was asleep because they stayed up all night talking about their marital problems. Brad says he went to a grocery store to pick up some food so that he could cook for some roofers. When he got back from the grocery store, Chase was gone.
I wasn't concerned at all about Chase and Amanda until I received a phone call from Amanda and Chase was missing. I guess as a mother, that's when I began to worry. I stayed up all night thinking that he would reach out. Knowing Chase, our track record of communication, I knew something was very wrong. And by daylight the next morning, I knew I had to do something. Instinctively, I knew that he was not able to answer me. I called Amanda and told her that I was making a report, and then she came over to the house as quick as she could.
The police arrived at Stephanie's house, and Amanda told the police that Chase suffered from bipolar disorder and that he had been self-medicating.
He took down the information, listened to what we had to say, and Amanda and I were told if Chase wants to be missing, it's not a crime to go missing. Therefore, there was no one authority-wise actively looking for Chase.
A group of Army moms and civilians band together, vowing to bring Chase home.
Team Chase was kind of their own detective agency.
Team Chase was concerned with Amanda. She did not seem to want to cooperate with anything Team Chase was doing. Who does that?
After living through an intense bipolar episode, 26-year-old war vet Chase Masner decides he has to protect his family from himself. He goes to crash at the home of Brad Clement until his emotions level out. But after one single agonizing night without hearing from her son, Mom Stephanie gets an overwhelming sixth sense that Chase is in trouble.
I had spoke with several detectives over the phone and got the condescending, "You're overreacting, hear me," so that we could find Chase.
Can you imagine walking in Stephanie's shoes? As a mother myself, I'd want everybody, police, canines, helicopters, the works, out there, shoulder to shoulder with me, searching for my son. But as a prosecutor, I know law enforcement can only do so much. Unfortunately, they don't have the manpower and resources to throw at finding a man who may have disappeared all on his own, and who may want to stay that way. Gone.
His wife Amanda told us that he had issues with experimenting potentially with drugs. So that was a factor in our investigation to see was that even involved in this case or not. I was asked to make contact with the homeowner where he was last seen. So we began a background of Brad. He also had issues with drugs. He did have his run-ins with the law, and a lot of people in the community that knew Brad had questions about his integrity. Myself and my partner went out to Brad Clement's house, sat down with him at his kitchen table, interviewed him about what had happened.
You know, he was telling me basically, I mean, his wife was, you know, she's like his trigger or whatnot.
Right.
Like, that's what, you know, he's just got to get away from her. He seemed fine.
Okay.
Went to sleep, and I had the Ruperts here, and they came over, crack of dawn. So I was up, and he was asleep. So I had gone earlier to the store, and I asked him if he wanted to go. He woke up and was like, "Oh, I'll stay here," and then got back here, and went to go cook. And then I was cooking, and go wake him up when I got done. He wasn't there.
Okay.
And, pretty much since then, no one's seen him. Yeah.
Okay.
And I even asked the Ruperts, they saw, which direction he went. They go into the woods, they go towards the highway, and, they don't know.
Did they see him leave? Or they just don't recall seeing
Brandon doesn't see him leave, but the Mexican guys, I think they did. They were on the roof.
Okay.
He also walked us around his property, seemed very sincere about him wanting to find out what happened to Chase too. When Chase went missing, Stephanie, Amanda, they all said that he's not going to leave his family. The hard reality is that does happen, and we can't just go with speculation. And at that point, we just had no hard evidence to say that something malicious or foul play had occurred to Chase.
Honestly, the next couple days are a blur for me. Amanda started making a few phone calls. We took recent photos of Chase, had thousands of flyers printed. So we started getting a lot of calls, messages from people who just wanted to help, their support.
When Chase Massner went missing, for me, having sons that have deployed, knowing that he had deployed at one point in time, that our sons had come home, and then this veteran had gone missing on our soil, not overseas, that was not okay. So we formed a Facebook group, and people just immediately started flocking to the Facebook page. We began to call ourselves Team Chase.
Team Chase is a force to be reckoned with, blanketing North Georgia with flyers, creating social media pages, collecting tips from the community, and raising a $5,000 reward. They even organize massive civilian searches with the help of canines, desperate for any signs of Chase and committed to bringing him home one way or another.
With any missing person investigation, maybe foul play was expected. You look at the closest people. So you start with spouses, girlfriends, things of that nature. We work with the DA's office to subpoena Amanda's, Chase's, as well as Brad's cell phone records, cell tower records. So there's a lot of data that had to be sorted through. With Amanda, we were able to alibi her that she was nowhere near Brad's house when Chase went missing. Additionally, with Brad, he'd given us a version of events about where he went the day that Chase went missing. We were able to corroborate he did go down into the city of Atlanta.
We thought we would find him within just a couple of days, and the days turned into a couple of weeks. Team Chase was concerned with Amanda. She didn't seem to want to cooperate with anything Team Chase was doing and our big social media page was doing. She did not go out on the searches with us. She was definitely invited. She did not go hand out any of the posters with us. It was very odd.
While Amanda says she was nowhere near Brad Clement's house the night Chase disappeared, her behavior is still very suspicious. Does the seemingly perfect wife and mother know more than she's admitting? It's been 4 excruciating weeks since 26-year-old Chase Massner vanished. Sensing police have reached a dead end, a group of Army moms and civilians called Team Chase band together, vowing to bring Chase home. They believe police should investigate wife Amanda Massner more closely.
Team Chase was on a mission to the team rode by Amanda and Chase's house, and there were multiple black garbage bags sitting out, which to us was a red flag. We came to the conclusion of some things in the house were being disposed of that they may not want detectives to come in and find him home. Within 3 months of Chase missing, Amanda disconnected her phone, went to a brand new carrier, got herself a brand new phone number, Who does that?
Spring cleaning? After your husband mysteriously disappears? And changing your cell phone number? Something's not right, is it?
As we continued to search for Chase, and as the weeks and months started to go by, we passed the information to Cobb County PD.
Team Chase was kind of their own detective agency. While the case was going, they would contact me with leads that they have. Sometimes I would maybe have to rein them in just a little bit. They had great intentions when they started off, but they didn't have the training to do what they were doing. There were numerous theories about what had happened to Chase. A lot of that information came through social media. One theory was that he was having an affair and left and was not going to come back. Another speculation was that he had become involved in some sort of big drug conspiracy and had been killed. It was a dead end. That's a very frustrating part about any investigation, but particularly a missing person investigation, because if you get a tip or some information that comes in, you have to follow up with it. But this went nationwide, and it went a little too far, and actually started to hurt the investigation.
I got a call from Amanda close to a year of Chase being missing. And she let me know that she had made a decision to move to Iowa. And at that point, we just had two separate missions. Her mission was to take care of her and Chase's daughters. And my mission was to find my son.
This is a heartbreak. Detectives have zero new leads, and Chase's wife, Amanda, leaves town. But Mom Stephanie can't just move on. She doesn't just want answers, she wants her son. Time passes. Another 2 years go by.
So after and there was no contact from Chase. So at this point, yes, it's listed as a missing person investigation, but in your mind, you know he's probably deceased, and we're looking for his body now.
The district attorney's office made the decision to ask some seasoned volunteers like myself and try to help with the cold cases. When I got the case file and saw that there was quite a bit of information in there, I was very surprised that it was not a solved case. One of the major issues that came to me was how Brad should have been pushed harder to either make a statement or to take a polygraph. And at that point, we wanted to see where any searches had taken place before. We determined that the area right behind Brad's house had not been searched.
Team Chase has no idea. The investigation has been turned over to the cold case team. Desperate to see movement in the case, they turn to the press. Reporter Daniel Wilkerson.
Team Chase felt that if I reached out to Brad, that there was a chance that he might talk to me. And so I said, well, what do we have to lose? Talking to Brad, he went through the events of that night. He picked up Chase. They went back to his house. Chase was very frustrated, and he just talked to Chase all night long about his problems and helped him to a spare bedroom where Chase went to bed. He said that Chase had a habit of just leaving, just disappearing. He said he took his phone so that he wouldn't leave. The next day, Brad comes back from the store, and Chase is missing. At some point, he tried to call Chase. He leaves a voicemail, but what's crazy is he had already told me that he had taken Chase's phone. That started to raise some red flags. There were conflicting stories that Brad was telling. So there were different things going through my mind. Is this person a killer or not? After I had talked to Brad, Team Chase also contacted Nancy Grace.
When I first heard about Chase Massner's disappearance, I had a gut reaction. My heart spoke to me. All I could think about was my son and what I would do to bring him back. I couldn't just sit by and do nothing. I had to do everything possible to help find Chase. I knew I had to focus on the last two people to see Chase Masner alive, Brad Clement and Amanda Masner.
And so at the time, he was living in one of these seedy motels. We walked to Brad's hotel room, and Brad opens the door. We walk in. I tell Brad, this is Nancy Grace. Nancy says, Brad, I want to talk to you. If you don't mind, I want to record it. And Nancy proceeds to interview Brad. Brad is a likable person, but it's hard to fool Nancy Grace.
While the cold case unit looks at Chase Masner's disappearance with fresh eyes, Team Chase takes matters into their own hands, including tracking down and getting to me for help. First thing, get Chase's story out on the airwaves and confront Brad Clement face to face. Just take me through what happened when he goes missing.
He was there that night and then basically left sometime between when I was coming back from the store to when I started cooking.
So would the roofers have been in a position to see him leave?
They should have. Like, that's what I thought. You know, that's why I assumed they just saw him leave, because, I mean, they were working there. The house had a steep, see, at this point, when it was really smoky, they had to get down. Like, I mean, I never imagined it would have gone to the extent of him, you know, not being found or shown up. Amanda called and asked me to come over there and, like, talk to her. Like, it was kind of odd, me being over there.
Because you only knew her through Chase.
Right. I don't know, it's just,
Did she hit
it was
on you?
odd. Oh, yeah.
Will you take a polygraph with me?
Do you want me to take a polygraph?
Yes. Not sitting right here. I'll set one up and just put the whole thing to rest.
I mean, I can, if that's what it takes, but it's just,
Don't be afraid of polygraph.
It's
It's not a big deal. They're
It's
not
fun.
hard at all.
I mean, right. So are we done then?
Clement first tells police the workers up on the roof probably saw Chase leave. But once I get him talking, he remembers. The roofers were not up on the roof because of barbecue smoke. And he actually laughs when I ask him to take a polygraph. This is all wrong. What else will I uncover?
When that podcast was placed on the internet, there were several key details in what Brad told Nancy that were complete mix-ups and opposites from what he had told me. And that was pretty telling to us.
But is Amanda connected in any way to her husband's disappearance? After months trying to reach her, Amanda finally returns my call and amazingly agrees to meet. Hadn't he been staying at his mom's because y'all were having arguments?
No. And that is what keeps getting pushed under the rug. There was no issue that we were directly fighting about. Chase had episodes where he would have a panic attack. These are things that he didn't like for the children to see, and I didn't like for the children to see.
When did you cut off his cell phone?
4 or 5 months after he disappeared.
Why?
Because I couldn't pay the bill.
What do you make of Brad's comments that you hit on him?
I definitely did not hit on him, and I have no idea why he would say that.
I'm trying to figure out if you, the person that knew him the best, thinks he was killed or met with foul play.
I don't believe that.
You don't believe somebody killed him?
I don't.
Do you think there's a chance he's still alive?
No.
Have you been cooperating with police?
Yes.
And are you willing to take a polygraph test?
Absolutely.
Amanda Masner does not hesitate. She agrees to take a polygraph immediately, unlike Brad Clement. Rumors are just that, rumors. Amanda became the victim of internet trolls that take the rumors too far. Sitting face to face with Amanda, I know it here. She's real. she's telling the truth.
Chase Massner. Sorry I wasn't able to come to the phone.
Chase, call me right now, please. Please.
End of message.
As more and more people became involved in the social media, it was completely debilitating in our lives. Trying to communicate with all of these people all the time, deal with every single allegation, every lie. It was killing me. They continually threatened to get my kids taken away from me. They followed me to work, followed me home from work. They would sleep outside my house, and then they would report on social media anybody that came and went. I really did not feel safe. And the damage to me and my family, we couldn't even grieve or cope. But how I wasn't the bad guy, then that bad guy was me.
There were a lot of rumors and theories that Amanda may have been involved with this. There wasn't any shred of evidence that Amanda had anything to do with what happened to Chase.
Police have been on Massner's team since day one. But after tracking Clement down to a live-in motel and questioning him myself, I uncover inconsistencies in his story. Suddenly, the police investigation is re-energized.
The podcast actually helped us solidify our suspicions of Brad. I consulted with the cold case unit about what could we possibly start doing to make another run at Brad.
We knew that Chase was missing. We knew that he had been with Brad. So the next thing was where? And Brad verified that Chase had been at his house. And there was no other information that led us anyplace else except Brad's house. Something was amiss on that property. It was my determination that the body was probably on that property.
After questioning both Brad Clement and Amanda Massner, I now make three critical deductions. 1, wife Amanda is not involved in her husband's disappearance. 2, good buddy Brad Clement's lying about something. And 3, Chase Massner did not just walk off into the sunset. He's dead. I take to the airwaves on Crime Stories to light a fire under the tails of Cobb County investigators to take another look at Brad Clement.
We were never to that point where we had probable cause to go get a search warrant to forcibly come on Brad Clement's property. Legally, we had done as much as we could. One of the key turning points in this case was that Brad sold the property. Therefore, the need to get a search warrant was thrown out. We could go ask for permission from the current homeowners.
It was imperative that they allow us to search. Otherwise, it would have been the end. There was no other lead for us to go any further. We contacted the owners and asked for permission to search around the house, which they gave very graciously.
Guy Watkins worked with Tracy Sargent and our human remains detection dogs to go back to Brad Clement's former property to see what we could find there.
Tracy started with the dog. We went around to the side of the yard, went into the house.
Tracy took her dog into the basement. The dog sniffed around, didn't hit on anything. And so she brought him out of the side of the house to the backyard.
There was a concrete slab on the ground underneath the porch. She let it work up close to the back porch, and the dog sat. And we were like, this is real. We felt like that we had found Chase.
We just all looked around in amazement. It was chilling.
On August 1st, myself, 2 other detectives went out to that house, and also with a individual from our parks department with a backhoe. As soon as he moved that slab, I could see a piece of a black garbage bag and an odor, which I recognized as something that was consistent with the decomposition of a dead body.
There was no doubt in my mind that we had found Chase Massner. It was a surreal, somber moment knowing that he had been laying there for 3 years.
My most horrific nightmare, it was the phone call when they found him.
Of all the things I ever imagined, never one time did I ever think that Chase would be right there. Never. It was a phone call that answered my prayers, but also just ripped my heart.
Police have enough evidence to arrest Brad Clement for concealing a body. Once in custody, police hope Clement will reveal the truth behind Chase Massner's death. But believe it or not, a few days later, Brad Clement has disappeared.
At that point, we knew Brad was a fugitive. We knew that he was on the run. And so we were very concerned about being able to find him.
The U.S. Marshals were now in charge of the manhunt. Brad decided to cross state lines. That's their jurisdiction. It's just a matter of time before they would find him. 6 days after Brad took off, one of the marshals sent me a picture of Brad.
It was raining down on him in that moment.
It was a victory. I mean, it was something that we felt proud of.
He had been lying to people for 3 years, and now everything had come to an end.
At that point, with Brad in custody, we have charges against him. Now we have to prove it in a court of law.
We were all eagerly trying to figure out, well, how did this happen? What is the cause and manner of Chase Massner's death?
But there was a severe amount of decomposition. It had been 3 years. There was no obvious signs of trauma. There was no hole in the skull to indicate he'd been shot or ribs cracked or signs of an assault.
The toxicology report showed that there was heroin, methamphetamine, and also the medicine that Chase was taking for his bipolar disorder. I think that he probably overdosed that night. Brad panicked and decided he needed to do away with the body.
We wanted to know, are any of these drugs in his system, were they in a lethal amount? Could this be what caused his death? And unfortunately, because of the state of decomposition of Chase's body, we're never able to get those answers.
So therefore, his manner of death was determined as undetermined.
After all the heartbreak, the Massners finally find Chase. But they still don't know how their son, their husband, their dad lost his life. And don't forget, cause of death is the cornerstone to a murder prosecution. If the state doesn't have that, how can they prove Chase was murdered at all? This puts the prosecution at a serious disadvantage. After an intense 6-day manhunt, Clement is finally apprehended. Now, Cobb County DA's office has to put together a case and get justice for Amanda, for Stephanie, for the Massner family, or else risk letting a possible killer walk free.
Once we realized that we were never going to be able to determine cause and manner of death, the only viable charges that we could levy against Brad Clement were concealing death of another and false statements to law enforcement. When the defense offered to accept responsibility for these crimes and to complete the case, that led to some really tough decisions on the state's part. We had a circumstantial case with no forensics, no fingerprints or anything that would allow us to say definitively that Brad Clement is the one that actually buried the body. So we brought Stephanie to the table, had a very tough and emotional conversation with her about the risks and the benefits to a plea offer versus forcing the case to trial guilty because of all the questions that remained. Everybody agreed that the best thing to do was to try to negotiate.
It was difficult to finally get to this point and not be able to have more leverage in the courtroom, which would have carried a higher sentence.
It's my understanding that you wish to enter a plea of guilty today.
The elderly.
Yes.
Brad Clement enters an Alford plea, which is not only complicated, it's not even allowed in every state. Alford pleas occur when a defendant believes the state has plenty of evidence to convict, but the state is concerned they don't have enough evidence to convict. So each side walks away a little unhappy. The defendant never says, "I'm guilty," but the defendant does say, "I'll take my punishment." In this case, prosecutors cannot prove cause of death, so they cannot risk taking this case to trial. Because of this Alford plea, Brad Clement will never have to tell Amanda and Stephanie how Chase Masner died. This is not justice by a long shot.
Brad didn't have to and never will have to tell me what happened. And I guess that's something that I will never know. I don't have closure on that chapter.
I don't feel like there should be an Alford plea because if you're going to plead guilty to something, then an explanation of what happened should be a requirement. And for so many people not knowing for the rest of their lives, it could be torturous to them.
Is there anything you want to tell me or tell your family or the owner anyway?
Sam, I'm very sorry for your loss.
What I would like maybe to get across is to continue to be persistent. I felt like I was annoying, driving people crazy, but I was Chase's voice. And don't ever let your child's voice go unheard. But what we can do from here on is live every day like Chase would want us to live.
I pray people will learn the internet is absolutely not a place to play detective and publicize cases. Realize that this is a family. This is a person. And everything that you put on the internet will either lift up that family in a tragedy or bring them down. And what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of role do you want to play in that family's life?
For 3 years, the Masner family waited for justice. For 3 horrible years, fingers pointed at wife, mother, widow, Amanda Masner. All this time, her husband, Rocky War vet Chase Masner, was buried under a load of dirt in Brad Clement's backyard. I remember when Brad Clement was arrested, we celebrated. We thought we made it to the finish line. That the Masner family could finally begin to heal. But an Alford plea and a slap on the wrist sentence, that's an injustice that nobody saw coming. And the Masners' hearts were crushed all over again. Because in the very near future, Brad Clement will walk free. For more information, go to oxygen.com.